My girlfriend's ultimate betrayal. How I found out she was cheating with four guys. I met Olivia on one of those nights that doesn't feel important until you look back and realize it changed everything. It was a Tuesday. Random, quiet, uneventful. I had just gotten off a brutal 12-hour shift and stopped by the little diner down the street to grab a late dinner. She was sitting two booths over, nose buried in a book, completely oblivious to the world around her. There was something about her. Maybe the way her hair fell across her face, or the slight frown of concentration she wore. I remember thinking she looked like someone from another life, a place where people had time to read and think and feel. We made eye contact once. She smiled. I nodded like a dork and immediately looked away, pretending to scroll through my phone. I never would have talked to her if the waitress hadn't accidentally brought me her food. Olivia laughed, apologized for the mix-up, and we got to talking. One conversation turned into two. I sat across from her that night with my half-eaten burger, listening to her rant about bad plot twists and lazy authors. She was sharp, sarcastic, and funny in that effortlessly cool kind of way. We exchanged numbers before we left. She texted me that night something like, "Thanks for making my Tuesday a little less boring." And just like that, she was in my life. The early days were magic. We were both broke but happy, walking through parks, eating cheap takeout on rooftops, and watching bad Netflix shows on her old laptop. She'd wear my hoodie, steal my fries, fall asleep on my chest mid-movie. I was smitten, head over heels. It wasn't just attraction, it was that feeling of being seen. Like she got me, like I wasn't just some guy grinding through workdays, but someone she actually wanted to know. 6 months in, we moved in together. People said it was fast, but when you know, right? I should have noticed it then. Little things. How she always kept her phone face down. How she never posted about me online. How she got bored of conversations quickly and changed the subject when things got too deep. But I chalked it up to quirks. Everyone has them. I loved her, so I ignored the signals. We built a life. We split rent, adopted a cat, hosted awkward dinner parties with our neighbors. We even took a road trip out to Arizona where she said, "If you ever propose, do it somewhere like this." I was already thinking about the ring by then. I just wanted to give her everything. A home, a future, something solid. I started picking up extra shifts, skipping nights out with the boys, pushing toward a better paycheck so I could afford something nice. Nothing crazy, just a decent diamond and a place we could call our own. I kept that plan quiet. I wanted it to be a surprise, and I thought she was in it with me. All the signs were there. Her little good luck text before my long shifts, the way she still laughed at my dumb jokes, the way she curled into me at night like I was her safe place. I didn't know she was lying in someone else's arms the moment I left. You know how they say love makes you do crazy things? I used to think that was just poetic bullshit. Then I found myself clocking into back-to-back shifts 6 days a week at a warehouse that chewed up your soul and spat it back out in a dusty break room. And the crazy part? I didn't resent it. Not at first. I had a goal. I'd been setting aside money bit by bit. Small bills, coins in a jar at first, then a secret savings account. I'd Google rings during lunch breaks, compare styles, read forums about proposals that made girls cry in the good way. I even followed a few wedding pages on Instagram. Quietly, of course. Olivia would have roasted me for that, but I wanted it to be perfect. She deserved perfect, or at least that's what I kept telling myself. We talked about the future a lot. Kids, maybe two. A small place outside the city. She wanted a reading nook. I said I'd build her one. She laughed and said, "You can barely fix a loose cabinet door." I promised I'd learn. I meant it. She told me she wanted to start her own business one day. Something creative. She hated her office job but stuck with it for the paycheck. I respected that. It made me feel like we were both grinding for something better, like we were climbing the same hill together. I didn't mind the missed weekends or the overtime headaches. I saw them as investments. For us. For what was coming. She was sweet during that time. More affectionate even. She'd pack me little snacks and leave notes like, "Don't forget to eat," or "Hurry home, I miss you." Stuff like that hits different when you're dead on your feet after 14 hours surrounded by forklifts and fluorescent lights. I remember this one night. It was raining like crazy, and I got caught walking home after my car broke down. Soaked to the bone, freezing, shoes squishing with every step. When I got in, she was on the couch in my hoodie, hair tied up, holding a hot mug of tea. She smiled and said, "Rough day?" I nodded. She patted the spot next to her and whispered, "Come warm up." Moments like that, they make you believe. Even now, knowing what I know, part of me still remembers that feeling and wonders how it was all fake. Because it had to be, right? No one who really loves you could do what she did. I kept the proposal plan quiet. I figured her birthday would be the right moment. Late summer, perfect weather. I even started calling up friends to help with ideas. My best friend, Ethan, was especially pumped. Said he'd help me scope out spots and film the whole thing. He knew how much I loved her. He knew what she meant to me. That detail would haunt me later. In the meantime, Olivia started getting more distant. It was subtle. Texting a bit less, staying late at work, claiming she was too tired to talk or hang out. I chalked it up to stress. Figured we were both burning out a little. Every couple has ups and downs, right? Sometimes I'd wake up and she wasn't in bed. Said she couldn't sleep and went for a walk. I didn't press it. I trusted her. That was my biggest mistake. I gave everything to her without ever once asking if she was still giving anything back. And while I was out here sweating through warehouse shifts, planning a life with her down to the damn doormat, she was planning something else entirely. It started like a whisper, a weird tickle at the back of my brain that something was off. At first I brushed it off. People get tired, moods change, work gets stressful. We weren't always in sync. Normal relationship stuff, right? But then came the 2 a.m. notifications. The first night I was half asleep when I heard the buzz. Then another, and another. She was curled away from me in bed, her phone lighting up the room in soft flashes. I thought maybe someone in her family had an emergency. I sat up. She jolted and flipped the phone over so the screen faced down. "Everything okay?" I mumbled. "Just work stuff," she said too quickly, already pulling the covers tighter. "It's my boss again. He's been texting the whole team about this last-minute client thing." "Damn," I muttered. "At 2 a.m.?" She rolled away, pretending not to hear the doubt in my voice. I lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it made sense. She worked in marketing. They had big campaigns sometimes. Maybe it was a client overseas. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, again, but it didn't stop. Night after night, more buzzing. Sometimes she'd get up and leave the room to go to the bathroom, but would be gone 20 to 30 minutes. Other times she'd pretend to be asleep, but I'd hear the soft taps of her typing under the covers. My gut started screaming, but my heart kept punching it down. Then came the weird new routines. She started locking her phone around me. She used to leave it lying around, no problem. Now it never left her side. She kept it face down, even during dinner. Started using Face ID instead of her old passcode. I joked once, "What, you got state secrets on there?" She smirked. "Just keeping nosy boyfriends out." I laughed at the time, but it sat wrong. Like a sharp pebble in my shoe I couldn't shake out. One night, I came home early. My shift got cut short, and found her on the balcony. She didn't hear me come in. I saw her through the glass door, leaning over the railing, whispering into her phone with that nervous giggle she only used when she flirted. Then she hung up, walked back inside, and acted surprised to see me. "You're home early," she said, cheeks flushed. "Yeah, warehouse had a power outage. What about you? Who were you talking to?" "Just Mia from work," she lied without blinking. She was ranting about the client again. I nodded. I didn't believe a word of it. Something inside me cracked that night. I started noticing patterns, how she always had a different excuse for why she couldn't hang out, why she had to work late, or suddenly needed to help a friend through a crisis. The worst part? I still wanted to believe her. I still held out hope that this was just a rough patch. But deep down, I knew. I just didn't want to admit it. I talked to Ethan about it one night over beers. I told him I was worried, that things felt weird. He clapped me on the back and said, "Bro, you're probably just tired. She loves you, man. Don't overthink it." That night he was one of the 4 I would later see in her messages. He told me to trust her while he was in her bed behind my back. That's the kind of betrayal that doesn't just cut, it cauterizes. It brands you. I used to think snooping was the ultimate betrayal, like if you had to go through someone's phone, you'd already lost. I don't think that anymore. I think betrayal has levels. There's the surface kind. White lies, forgotten texts, tension that comes and goes. And then there's the kind that rots you from the inside out, the kind that makes you question every memory, every moment, every word they ever said. That's the kind I walked into. It was a Friday night. She said she was going out with coworkers, some team building thing at a karaoke bar. She dressed up more than usual, curled her hair, did her makeup extra nice. I told her she looked beautiful and she gave me a half smile and said, "Thanks." Then she left. I sat on the couch, scrolling mindlessly, trying to ignore the feeling in my chest. That gut-twisting sense that something wasn't right. Again, I stared at the door for almost an hour after she left. And then I saw it. Her work laptop, still on the dining table. Her phone. She had left it charging on the counter, unlocked. I didn't move for a full minute, just stared at it like it was a live grenade. I knew I shouldn't. Every voice in my head screamed, "Don't. Just wait. Talk to her tomorrow." But I couldn't. My hands moved before I could stop them. I picked it up. First thing I checked was her messages. What I found didn't feel real. There wasn't just one guy, there were 4. 4 different men, each with their own message threads, each with their own tone, inside jokes, pictures, and plans. The first thread? Ethan, my best friend, my brother since 3rd grade, the guy who was supposed to be my best man one day. The messages were months deep. Photos, videos, him sending selfies from my apartment when I wasn't home. One message read, "He still has no clue?" Damn, babe, you're evil LOL. Her reply? He's too busy playing hero. He wouldn't notice if I dyed my hair blue. The second guy, her boss, the one she always said was kind of a creep, but harmless. Apparently, harmless meant renting hotel rooms during client events and paying for Uber rides to his place when she claimed she was working late. He called her his stress relief. The third guy, the neighbor from down the hall. You know the type, overly friendly, always offering to help carry groceries, always around. Turns out he wasn't just around, he was inside. Their thread was full of hookup logistics and sarcastic jabs at me. One message read, "You ever gonna leave him or what?" She wrote, "He pays half the rent. I'd be stupid to move out now." The fourth? The so-called gay best friend. The one I never questioned because, well, he said he was gay. She introduced him like that, joked about how he was one of the girls. His thread had zero friend vibes, nothing but dirty talk and videos. His contact name was Princess. One of the last messages said, "He still think I'm into dudes?" LMFAO. I just sat there. I couldn't move. I couldn't cry. I just shut down. I must have stared at the screen for over an hour, reading and rereading, scrolling through the months and months of deception. Every night she'd kissed me goodnight after texting them. Every morning she said, "I love you," before replying to their "can't wait to see you again" messages. She didn't slip up once. No accidental texts, no weird lipstick stains or perfume smells. She was surgical, cold, smart, and I was the idiot who thought love was enough. When she came home that night, laughing to herself, drunk off whatever, I was still on the couch, phone in hand. Her face changed the second she saw me. She didn't even look surprised, just annoyed. I stood up. My voice was shaking. "4 guys, Olivia? 4 fucking guys?" She blinked, then shrugged. "Took you long enough." That's what she said. "Took you long enough." Like it was a game I finally lost. I remember my hands trembling, my face hot, my chest aching. I couldn't speak. I couldn't scream. I just stared at her like I was trying to recognize a stranger in my own home. She smiled. "Not even sorry. You're too predictable. Too safe." I got bored. I always thought betrayal would come with drama. Yelling, crying, maybe a teary apology. Some messy emotional hurricane where everyone screams over each other and then walks away wrecked. But this was worse. This was silence. Cold. Surgical. Her words cut, but her expression? Nothing. No guilt. No shame. Just boredom? Like I'd interrupted her movie or spilled a drink on her couch. She sat on the armrest and crossed her legs like she wasn't just caught cheating with 4 different men. "You really don't have anything to say?" I asked. My voice cracked. I hated that it cracked. She smirked. "What do you want me to say, that I'm sorry? I'm not." She leaned forward a little, her tone suddenly sarcastic. "You work late? You come home exhausted? You barely even touch me anymore unless it's a 5-minute routine before passing out. You stopped paying attention. You stopped being fun." I was stunned. I was working for us, for a future, for a ring. She blinked, like that was the most absurd thing she'd ever heard. A ring? That explains the overtime. Wow, that would have been awkward. Awkward? "Yeah," she said, chuckling. "You propose and I have to pretend I care? Nah, you would have embarrassed us both." It was like she was trying to destroy me on purpose, like she'd been waiting for this. And once she saw I was broken, she stood up, grabbed her purse, and said, "I'm going out to clear my head." The door slammed. That was it. I was alone, still holding her phone, still smelling her perfume in the room, still trying to process the last 15 minutes. I don't know how long I sat there. Hours, maybe. Time didn't exist in that moment. Just waves of disbelief crashing over me. Eventually, I packed a duffel bag. Clothes, charger, toothbrush. Left the key on the table. I didn't even bother to leave a note. The next day, the unraveling continued. Let's start with Ethan. We'd been best friends since we were 8. First scraped knees, first video games, first beers, everything. He was like a brother. He was supposed to be family. I didn't text him. I didn't call. But that didn't stop him. At 3 p.m., he sent a text, "Bro, look, I never meant for things to go that far. It just kind of happened. Don't hate me, man. These things happen." These things happen. As if sleeping with your best friend's girlfriend for 8 months was something that just happens. Like tripping over a curb or missing your alarm. He followed it with, "It wasn't personal." Wasn't personal? You fucked my girl in my apartment while I was working overtime to propose to her. It doesn't get more personal than that. The boss, Olivia, got fired a week later. Apparently she was sleeping with him and his business partner, and once the HR whispering started, he cut her off to save face. No more stress relief. Just a pink slip and a legal document to keep her quiet. I only knew because one of her old coworkers who followed me on Instagram messaged me like, "Dude, you okay?" Shit blew up at her job. I didn't reply, but it made me smile for the first time in days. The neighbor? Moved out the week after I did. Word was his girlfriend found Olivia's texts. She keyed his car, burned his clothes on the lawn, then left him sobbing in the hallway. I heard from another neighbor that he cried and screamed, "She meant nothing!" while the fire department put out a trash can blaze outside his door. He definitely got what he deserved. And the gay best friend ghosted her the minute she got dumped. Turns out he was bi, not gay. She just used the gay best friend label to disarm me. He was younger, lived in another part of the city, and when I looked him up later, curiosity got the better of me. His Instagram was full of new girls, new hookups, new places. Olivia wasn't even a memory. She'd been discarded like a sock. Each of them betrayed me differently. Ethan stabbed me in the back with a smile. Her boss used her and tossed her. The neighbor was just sleazy and opportunistic. And the gay friend was just bored and horny. But Olivia, she orchestrated it all. Played the angles. Played me. She built a web of lies so complete I didn't even know I was tangled until it was too late. And even then, she never said sorry. They say laughter is the best medicine. But when it's coming from the person who just destroyed your life, it's not medicine. It's a razor blade dipped in salt. I hadn't spoken to Olivia since I left that night. Didn't call. Didn't check her socials. Didn't even go back for the rest of my stuff. I had my essentials, and everything else could rot with the lies. I moved in with my cousin temporarily. Small place, old couch, spotty Wi-Fi? Didn't care. I slept better there than I had in weeks. But then, 4 days later, I got a voicemail from her. "Hey, I know you're pissed, but can we talk? Not like fight talk, just talk. I think we need to clear the air. I'll be at the apartment around 7 if you want to stop by." I stared at the message for a long time. Some part of me thought maybe she was calling to own up. To apologize, to cry, to explain what the hell happened and why I was blindsided in my own relationship like a background character in someone else's life. I went, not because I missed her, not because I wanted her back. I went because I wanted to see her face when she realized she couldn't lie her way out of this. She opened the door like nothing happened. Hair tied back, loose hoodie, barefoot. "You came," she said, stepping aside. I walked in. Same apartment, same couch, same cat even. But it felt haunted. Like everything had a layer of betrayal stuck to it. She sat down, crossed her legs, looked at me like we were catching up after a vacation. "So," she said, "how's your cousin's couch?" I stared. She smiled. "Sorry, was that too soon? Why'd you ask me here?" I finally said. She sighed dramatically, like I was the one making this hard. "Because you looked so heartbroken when you left." And I figured, I don't know, you deserve to hear it from me. Hear what? That you're not the first guy this happened to. My jaw tightened. "You invited me here to tell me you've done this before?" She nodded, completely calm. "Yup, I cheat. I get bored. I always have." Don't act like this is shocking. That's when I realized she wasn't broken. She wasn't grieving. She wasn't sorry. She was proud of it. Like being emotionally bankrupt was some kind of edgy personality trait. "I gave you everything," I said. "I worked myself into the ground. I loved you." "I didn't ask you to do that," she said with a shrug. "But you let me," I snapped. "You watched me kill myself to build a life with you, and the whole time you were screwing half the damn zip code." She laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not a guilty one. A full laugh. Like I just told the funniest joke she'd ever heard. "You're really gonna sit there and act like this is all my fault?" she said, rolling her eyes. "You knew what kind of girl I was. You just didn't want to see it. And the worst part? Maybe she was right. Maybe I didn't want to see it. Maybe I ignored the red flags because I thought love could fix things, that my love would be enough to make her different. But people don't change just because you love them. They only change when they want to. And Olivia? She liked being a liar. She liked the power, the manipulation, the thrill of it." I stood up. She leaned back, still smirking. "What? No dramatic exit?" "No," I said. "No drama. Just congratulations. You win. You got what you wanted." She raised an eyebrow. "Which was? Control. Attention. A bunch of guys too stupid to realize they were just pawns in your little ego game." Then I left, quietly. No slamming doors, no shouting. Because I didn't need to hurt her to win. I just needed to leave. There's no guidebook for what to do when your life falls apart. No handbook for when the person you loved turns out to be a stranger with a knife behind their back and your name on the blade. All I knew was that I had to get away. I didn't go back to the apartment after that. My cousin helped me move the rest of my things while Olivia was out. We loaded everything into a borrowed van in under 2 hours. My gaming setup, my clothes, a couple posters, and a half-dead potted plant I didn't even want anymore. I left the bed. I didn't want to sleep in something that had been used like that. Didn't want to wonder which nights she'd laid there after sleeping with one of them. Didn't want to smell her shampoo in the pillows. I left the couch too. I'd spent too many nights imagining our future there. It wasn't mine anymore. For the first 2 weeks, I was just numb. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't punch walls or break dishes. That would have felt better. Instead, I woke up, went to work, came home, stared at the ceiling, and tried to pretend my life hadn't just been set on fire. I ate whatever was around, drank a little too much, slept in short, restless intervals. My cousin would check on me sometimes, but I'd always just say, I'm fine. It wasn't true, but what was he supposed to do? There's no rescue plan for heartbreak like that. It's a solo climb out of a pit you didn't even know existed. And then the dreams started. Not nightmares exactly, more like replays. Memories of her laughing at the park, her sleeping in my hoodie, her standing in the kitchen dancing barefoot while making pancakes. But in the dream, it always shifted. Her smile would curl into a smirk. The music would slow down. Voices would echo until I'd look closer and see one of the guys standing behind her, laughing, watching me. I'd wake up sweating, heart racing. And every time the feeling was the same. I was the punchline. I started therapy after a month. One of the best decisions I've ever made. I was hesitant at first, thought I could handle it alone. But I couldn't. I was unraveling inside my own head. My therapist was this quiet, middle-aged woman named Carla. She didn't push. She just listened. And when I finally told her everything, from the first 2 a.m. texts to the final laugh, I remember her looking at me and saying, "You were loyal to someone who didn't value loyalty. That doesn't make you weak. It means your love was real. Theirs wasn't." That hit me hard. For the first time, I cried in front of someone. Not because I missed Olivia, but because I finally allowed myself to grieve the version of her I fell in love with, the one that never really existed. Little by little, I started rebuilding. I deleted every picture of us, blocked her number, unfollowed Ethan, blocked the neighbor, deleted the gay friend from socials, and burned every trace of them from my life. Not out of spite, but because I had to. Because healing doesn't start until you stop reopening the wound. I got back into the gym, not for revenge, not to make her jealous, just to feel strong again, like I had control over something. I started running, lifting, eating right. At night, I journaled. Every damn thought, every what if, every I should have seen it, every why wasn't I enough. And slowly, those entries stopped being about her and started being about me, about my growth, my future. I realized something then. You don't heal by pretending you weren't hurt. You heal by crawling through the mud, face first until you find dry land. The thing no one tells you about betrayal is how far the cracks spread. It's not just the relationship that breaks, it's everything around it. The friendships, the routines, your sense of reality, even your past starts to feel suspicious. The first person I told after my cousin was my mom. We were close. She'd always liked Olivia, always asked when I was going to propose. I used to laugh and dodge the question, but I think she knew. Moms always do. I remember sitting at her kitchen table holding a cup of coffee I wasn't drinking, just staring. "You okay, baby?" she asked. I couldn't say it out loud. The words were too big, too ugly. So I just shook my head and whispered, "She cheated." She didn't ask how, didn't press for details, just got up, walked over, and hugged me. "I'm so sorry." And that was enough because she meant it. My dad didn't take it the same way. He was quiet for a minute after I told him, then just said, "So what now?" "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "You leave, you move on. You be smarter next time." Like it was that simple. Like I could just press a reset button and forget everything. I know he meant well, but I wasn't ready to hear that. I didn't want logic. I wanted space to hurt. Then came the friends. You'd think people would rally around you after something like that. Some did, but most just faded. A few were mutuals with Olivia. They didn't want to pick sides, which is hilarious considering one side involved a loyal boyfriend and the other involved 4 side pieces and a literal betrayal from my so-called best friend. Others said the classic, "Damn, bro, that's crazy," then never checked in again. One guy even texted, "Well, at least now you're free to have fun again." Yeah, because that's what I wanted. To have fun. Not to rebuild my trust in humanity or question whether I could ever love again without looking over my shoulder. And then, of course, there was Ethan, the one name I couldn't say without clenching my jaw. I didn't block him right away. I wanted to see if he'd try harder, if he'd show up at my door, crying, begging, trying to make it right, even if I wouldn't forgive him. But he didn't. He just sent one more text a few days later. "If you ever want to talk, I'm here." I didn't reply. Didn't need to, because talking wouldn't fix anything. Some betrayals don't leave room for repair. Some bridges don't burn. They collapse and take the whole road with them. The ripple effects kept coming. Little things hit me when I least expected it. A song we used to play in the car. A restaurant we said we'd go back to. A hoodie she used to steal that I found at the bottom of my laundry basket. It was like finding broken glass under your skin weeks after the cut. You think you're healed, and then pain. Fresh and sharp. I started having panic attacks, random ones. Grocery store, gym locker room, middle of the night. I'd be fine, and then suddenly not. Heart racing, chest tight, vision blurry, all because some memory flashed through me like lightning in a dry forest. My therapist told me it was trauma. That betrayal isn't just emotional, it's chemical. Your brain gets rewired. Your trust gets fried. Your body goes into defense mode even after the threat is gone. But the worst ripple of all, I stopped believing people. Every girl I talked to after that, even just casually, I'd second guess every word, every smile, every delay in texting back. Is she lying and is she seeing someone else too? What if she's just another Olivia, better at hiding it? It's exhausting, man. Trying to start fresh while your brain is still stuck in the past. It makes you want to build walls no one can climb. It makes you question if love is even worth it. But then again, healing doesn't mean you never feel pain again. It just means you learn how to carry it without letting it carry you. You always imagined starting over as this grand moment. New city, new job, fresh haircut, sun shining, birds chirping, some upbeat indie song playing in the background while you walk confidently into your next chapter. But in real life, it's not some montage. Like, it's slow, it's quiet, it's awkward as hell. And most of the time, it hurts before it heals. I moved to a new city 2 months after it all blew up. Nothing drastic, just a few hours away. Far enough that I wouldn't randomly bump into Olivia or Ethan or anyone who looked at me like, oh, that guy. Close enough to still see my family when I needed to. I found a cheap one-bedroom apartment above a bakery. The walls were thin, the pipes groaned at night, and there was a weird stain in the corner I never fully trusted. But it was mine, and for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. The first week was the hardest. I'd wake up and forget where I was, reach across the bed instinctively like I expected to find someone next to me, and then I'd remember, and the room would feel a little colder. I didn't know anyone in the new city. I kept to myself, went to work, came home, watched dumb shows on mute just to fill the silence. But little things started helping. The bakery downstairs gave me free coffee one morning because I helped the owner carry in a heavy flour sack. She started calling me Han and always snuck me an extra donut on Fridays. There was a park nearby where I'd sit and watch people walk their dogs. One afternoon, this old man sat beside me and said, "You look like someone who just realized life's unfair. Welcome to the club." Then he laughed and offered me a granola bar. These tiny moments, they chipped away at the darkness. Not big explosions of healing, just warmth. Small reminders that not everyone is like her. I also kept going to therapy. Weekly, then bi-weekly. Carla, my therapist, started challenging me more. "Why do you think you stayed?" she asked one session. "Because I loved her," I said. "No," she replied. "You loved the idea of her. The fantasy. The version of her you built in your head. The real Olivia, she showed you who she was. You just refused to believe her." That stung, but she was right. I didn't fall in love with the liar. I fell in love with the version of her I thought I could build a life with. And that's on me. Around the 3-month mark, I started journaling with intention. Not just dumping feelings, but planning, visualizing, rebuilding. I wrote out goals, nothing big. Just go one full day without checking her socials. Text someone new without fear. Say yes to an invite, even if it feels scary. Learn to cook one real meal that doesn't involve a microwave. Each time I crossed one off, it felt like winning a battle in a war I didn't even know I'd enlisted in. One day, I went to a local open mic night, just to watch. I didn't expect anything. I just wanted to hear people talk about their lives. Laugh, share, be human. And somewhere between the girl reading poetry about losing her mom and the guy ranting about traffic being a metaphor for existence, I felt connected. Like maybe I wasn't alone in this pain. Like maybe all of us were just trying to rebuild something that got broken. I started talking to people again. Slowly, carefully. I made a few friends from work. Nothing deep, but we'd grab a beer now and then, talk about dumb shows or bad dates or how much the vending machine sucked. I started going to the gym again. Not for revenge, but to feel strong in my own body. And one night, I looked in the mirror and realized I didn't look like a victim anymore. I looked like someone who survived.
If you like to watch more videos, please hit the subscribe button and notification bell.